Good evening, Fernando.
Good evening, Helmut.
Fernando, just after our last conversation, I went to Twitter, and only then I realized your handle is, oh my God, how old is it?
I joined Twitter, someone asked the other day, I think it was 2009.
2009.
But I could get that handle. Back then it was taken by someone else.
Yes.
But during a short period in 2009, Twitter allowed to claim unused or underutilized handles. So if the owner had not tweeted for, I think it was 6 or 9 months, something like that, you could request it to be assigned to you. And I was able to get this one. It was long ago, but not as long as you.
And you just filled in the form and.
Yep.
So whoever doesn't know that, Fernando is so well-known word, and of course ABBA brought even more light. Fernando, one of the favorite songs of mine, and yes, Fernando has got that the cleanest possible URL like handle.
A couple people had tried to buy it a long time, but never really seriously. And I mean,
would you sell it? Would you sell it?
I don't think so. I mean, if someone came with a crazy amount, of course I would, but it's just a Twitter handle. But no one will come with a crazy amount. Well, so if it's gonna be a small thing, I'm happy with it.
Let us say for a Dash masternode.
Then I would definitely give it away. For a masternode,
that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
I'm not so crazy. I'd give my Twitter handle and my real name probably. I can change it to anything for a masternode.
Have you got a masternode?
I have some coins.
Yes.
I was here from the beginning. I usually don't say what I have and what I don't. I'm very concerned about privacy and security and that kind of thing. So yeah, I got involved in that in 2014. So obviously I have some coins. I've been involved for a long time, and I'm not a seller. So obviously I have a few coins of my own.
Originally, Dash started from Darkcoin.
Yeah.
How was that transition? Are there still some Darkcoin left, or the
No?
transition?
It was just a change in the name. So it's the same coins. In fact, from time to time, we get someone that comes to us saying, "Hey, I have some Darkcoin in an old wallet. Will you help me to retrieve it?"
Yeah.
And we just get the guy updated, and it's done. It's the same coins. In fact, probably in the code, there are a couple Darkcoin references here and there.
Yes. So good evening, everybody. So we have, and thanks to Dash Boys, the Joyla Mark we all know. So we have CMO, so Chief Marketing Officer.
Yeah, it's chief marketing officer. I mean, it means nothing. In reality, it's marketing for the Core Group, which is one of the organizations in the DaaS ecosystem. So I do many things. I've done other things previously because, I mean, in the beginning, it was just an open source project with a few hobbyists putting some time to it. So everyone who was around did whatever was able to do, and a few things that we were not able or qualified to do, but we did it anyway.
So I'll be pulling up the comments. I'll try to pull up all the comments. So as we can see, there is a comment saying, greetings to you. And Crypto.media is actually Crypto.media is the leading Latvia, like blockchain journal, blockchain news portal.
Cool.
So, and at the moment, I think in exchanges, all of his coins are in Dash actually. And again,
awesome.
Thanks to Joel and Mark.
That's a good choice.
Is it?
It's a good choice to have.
Why?
DaaS. Because DaaS is the project with the brightest future in the crypto world. I think DaaS has all the basic pillars to really become a form of money that everybody can use on their day-to-day. And that's something that I believe no other projects can say with as much confidence as I have for the future of DAS. Obviously, I'm not completely current on every project in this space because there are so many, but I really think we are the best form of money that one can create.
And why do you think so? What does make the Dash the best in your eyes?
It's scarce, like most cryptocurrencies. I don't say all because there are a few that have broken that basic rule. It's predictable. The demand for the supply of DAS is predictable. It's in the code, so you know about that. So that basic property is there. It's also fungible, which is something that, for example, Bitcoin can say. We have private chain, and you can mix funds in the protocol very easily. So the average user has access to tools to make the coins fungible. This means that every coin is the same than any other coin. They are not tainted by their past because you can't know their past. So you should not be damaged by the past of your coins. Then it's cheap by design because it can scale. We've designed the protocol in a way that transactions can grow in the blockchain, and there will always be a spare room for growth. And because of that, they are always going to be cheap. So you can rely on the DAS blockchain to put your transactions, unlike other blockchains that many businesses have adopted in the past and then they had to abandon because transactions got too expensive. In the case of DAS, we are talking fractions of a cent, and that's by design. It's always going to be very low because because we can grow the capacity of the network a lot. There is current research, recent research by the University of Arizona State University, ASU. In that news, you have articles by one of the researchers very frequently talking about all that research and putting in easier words for everyone to understand than in the research papers. But basically, they conclude that we can scale to thousands of transactions per second with our current network infrastructure. So we can go to PayPal, Visa levels. Obviously with some work, but we first need to find the transactions. But the structure, the protocol we have can support huge growth. And because of that, and because the transaction price is demand and supply, like in Bitcoin, if you always have a spare capacity, then the price is going to be negligible.
I remember maybe 2 months ago, couple of months ago, or 3 months ago, you actually did run a test of transactions.
Yep.
A huge amount of transactions. What was the test?
It was 3 million transactions in 24 hours. For a reference, Bitcoin usually does around 250,000 per day. So that's 12 times what Bitcoin does, more or less. And the prices of the transactions were fractions of a cent per transaction. The network didn't flinch. And this is just at our current capacity. What I was saying is that ASU has studied that if we grow our blocks even more, the network will work perfectly fine. Because the thing with growing blocks, other blockchains say, I'll just double the size and triple and again. But there are propagation issues. There are capacity issues at the node level. But because in DAS, we have the node level covered with the master nodes that are paid, we can request them to have powerful machines to service the network because they are getting paid. If they don't service the network, they won't be paid. So that's the incentive in the right place. In other networks, all the money, all the new coins created go to the miners. That creates a void at the node level because you have to operate that layer with volunteers. So volunteers are only going to invest up to a point. At some point, it doesn't make sense. So in DAS, we split the reward in 3 parts: miners, nodes, and then the treasury, which is a different system. We can talk about it after. And because of that, the node layer is extremely strong and can stay like that and can improve. And that makes that growth in the block size possible. Because with volunteer nodes, there's no way they can manage 16 gigabytes, 60 megabyte blocks, 20 megabyte block, that kind of stuff. There are all types of propagation issues. So if you fill those blocks, you are going to suffer. In our case, that's not happening. And it's not me saying, it's Arizona State University Blockchain Lab.
Have you tested, what is the biggest size of blocks you've tested? Have you tested?
No, they've tested.
Yes.
You
haven't run tests yourself, no?
Not myself. Our blocks are currently 2 megabytes.
Yes.
They tested, I think, up to 12 or 16 megabytes with our software, and it was all flawless. But I'd have to go back to the paper and check the exact numbers. I think it was around 16, but I could 16. Be off. Okay. 16 megabytes, but I could be off by a few megabytes up or down. I'm not completely certain. Also, we have blocks every 2.5 minutes. So that's 4 times the frequency of the Bitcoin blockchain. So it's not just the size of the block, but the number of blocks. So the capacity, even at 2 megabytes, we are 8 times the capacity of Bitcoin. Not exactly, because they have SegWit that fits in a few more transactions. So probably the block is equivalent to 1.2, 1.3 blocks in a blockchain without SegWit. Right?
And what does the Bitcoin crowd say about that? For example, in our community, there is a Latvian programmer, and he's among top 100 core contributors to the Bitcoin core product, and he's a proper Bitcoin supremacist. And what do they say about Dash?
They don't pay that much attention because they are too busy looking inwards and toward themselves. And obviously, I love Bitcoin. I hold Bitcoin. I use Bitcoin whenever I can, but okay. I very rarely use Bitcoin lately because it's so slow and expensive. But and we are a Bitcoin fork, so we are only grateful to the Bitcoin developers. Bitcoin is what started everything. It's what attracted most of us to the space. So I love Bitcoin. That's something I want to say very loud and clear. However, Bitcoin has derailed. It's gone in a direction that's not the direction it was intended in the beginning. So even though it's great for certain things, it's not great for others, and it's not money you can use. So they are very busy with this new vision of digital gold and a store of value and all of that. I respect that, okay. But I think a store of value comes because of utility, and they are losing that. Technically, Bitcoin is great, but from design or business perspective, I think they are losing it. And that's sad because I think Bitcoin started everything, but that's also okay. It's a decentralized space. We have many projects competing, and I'm sure many projects will survive. This is not going to be just one blockchain for everything. Same thing that there is no one for everything almost in any space.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. So now you have a chance to ask your live question for this CMO of Dash Core team. But at the beginning, we'll go through the recent update. Yes.
Sure.
So the strategy for the evening is we are going through the update and then live questions and answers. And if there won't be many questions from your side, I've got a bunch of them.
Okay. So latest software update was released last week. I think it was last Wednesday. No, not this Wednesday, the previous one.
Yes.
10 days ago, let's say. A few days ago, let's say. Version 0.14. It implements a huge breakthrough, which is under the hood for the user, but it will make it possible. It makes possible a lot of other things. It's called long-living masternode quorums. This means,
sorry. Once again, long-living
masternode quorums.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
This is technology that makes it possible for the blockchain to select groups of masternodes that everyone agree on. So everyone sees the exact same group of masternodes, and they that quorum is alive for, I think it's 12 hours right now. And then you you query that quorum with certain things. So they answer you, and you don't need to be pinging every server in the network for the same thing. So, for example, the first application of this is chain locks. Chain locks is protection against 51% minor attacks. We do this by asking one of such quorums of masternodes. We ask 400 masternodes.
Yes.
Which is the total population of masternodes is, depending on time, between 4,500 and 5,000 or 5,000. So when you ask 400, it's deterministically selected. You can't put your masternode in a quorum if you want it. It's selected by the network. So if you have 400 of them deciding on something, it's a good enough sample. Well, it's an almost perfect sample of the network. So anyone can control a quorum. And we ask this quorum, which block candidate did you see first? Because sometimes when miners publish their block candidates, not everyone sees the same thing at the same time.
Okay.
So when you ask these 400 masternodes, which block did you saw first? And the majority of them agree, this one was first. Because the rule in the protocol, like in Bitcoin, is first block is the one that is we are going to build upon. But sometimes, because the network is decentralized, there's no agreement which one is the first block you saw. And that's why sometimes you see small reorgs, like 1 block, 2 blocks, because people build on different blocks because they didn't agree which was created first. So these 400 masternodes vote on which block they saw first, and then they agree which block was created first, and they sign it. And that means that block is final. You can't reorganize anything below a signed block.
So I understand that 51% attacks are possible if a person or if a computer mines like privacy mining or something like that. If you could explain me.
Yeah,
that
what you would do.
Specific.
Yeah, the 51% attack is not that easy to do. And it's not that powerful. You don't destroy the coin, but you can do some damage. Okay. Basically, what you would do is build a longer chain in private. Because besides the first chain rule, there is the longer chain rule. And if 2 chains are competing, the longest one is the one that prevails.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you would find a block, but instead of publishing it, you look for the next block and you build it on top of that, and then again and again. And then at some point you publish.
Very good explanation. Thank you.
And then your blocks are the ones that are going to be valid. But people were already building on this other chain that was public. So your blocks could be different to theirs, and then transactions would disappear. And you could use this to basically double spend exchanges, because you would send the coins to an exchange in the public chain, exchange them for something else, withdraw the funds, and then you publish the reorg. And then the transaction in which you were sending the coins to the exchange disappears because you take it out from your version of the block, and then the exchange has been double spent because you already withdrew the coins you exchanged that for, and you haven't deposited because you've made your deposit disappear. So you can create a lot of damage. You can do that to anyone, but usually when we've seen 51% mining attacks on the Ethereum Classic blockchain or a few others, the other day there was in Bitcoin Cash, usually the target is an exchange, because it doesn't make sense to do such a complex and expensive thing to double spend a small transaction that I sent you.
Okay, Alex, actually, Game of Thrones, Game of Dash. Okay, we can talk about that later. 51% attacks are really interesting and curious. It is a very curious and interesting topic, especially for me. And I understand that many coins have come up to this point where they have to make this decision to allow privacy mining or not. And
in our case, the thing is, it doesn't make sense, because if the last block is signed, you are not going to be able to reorg below that. And other protocols have taken different defense measures against this kind of attack. But all of them go through a central authority that establishes, for example, a checkpoint. So from this point and downwards, you can't reorg, but it happens every certain time. Someone signs that. So there is some centralization, or there are some things that are lost along the way. In our case, we keep the decentralization because it's the masternodes, which are super decentralized, the ones that are signed every block. That way, it doesn't make sense to mine in secret because you can't reorg because it's signed. So below that, you can't do anything. So now every honest miner will know that when they publish a block and it's signed because it was the first one that was published, it's final. And that has other implications too, because when a block is final, you are achieving things that in other protocols you only achieve with time. And if you combine that with instant send, which now changes with long-living masternode quorums too, and it becomes much usable, you have transactions that are final, can't be changed in a second. So you have the finality of blockchain and cryptocurrencies, the finality of Bitcoin, but in a second, without compromising security or decentralization. That's huge.
And it does put a huge load on the masternodes. How does it change your whole infrastructure? So I now understand that miners now have to be very, very, very careful on choosing slower internet connections. Like there are certain things now they have to improve. As if they are slower, and if they find a block and somebody else finds it with faster. If you could explain, so how does it? The whole thing changes now.
Yeah, exactly. Miners need a good connection so they can relay the block candidate very fast. And because of what I was saying before, the block that is created first is the one that rules.
Yes.
So if you are not fast to broadcast your block, you are going to be toast. So and someone else will find it a few seconds after you. They'll publish theirs. They are better connected, and they'll steal your, well, not steal. They'll get your block reward because they act by the rules. People thought their blog was there before because you failed to publish. In our case, it's the same. However, the masternodes also, you were talking how this changes the infrastructure. Masternodes are powerful servers. They get paid, so they can pay for powerful servers. And they can pay for connectivity. And they will need it because we are doing some changes in how all this works at the time. But masternodes who don't, well, right now, if they don't stay online for a certain amount of time, they go, they stop being paid. But there will be soon other measures in the protocol that will punish you if your masternode is not online and is not working for the network. So you'll be incentive to pay for better broadband, better connectivity, better processors, disks, memory, whatever you need, because your masternode is a very important revenue source, and you want to keep that.
I understand that now we are talking about blocks, yes, not transactions yet.
Yeah, masternodes will be signing blocks.
Blocks, yes. As Alex
but
is
the block
saying,
contains transactions.
Alex is
Yeah, Alex is asking if does this mean that every transaction is now essentially instant? It will be as soon as 0.14 is completely deployed. The network is right now in the process of updating. It's been very fast. I think, it was last Wednesday when we released the software. And I don't want to start checking numbers right now, but miners were updating super fast, faster than in any previous update, I believe.
Okay.
So it's going to happen very soon. Then a few days above 80% adoption needs to happen, and then we'll monitor the network, and the team will be checking if everything works well. It's deployed in phases, but in a few weeks, every instant transactions will be final, and spendable instantly. And it will work as you would expect cash to work. I give it to you, now it's yours, you can do whatever you want with it.
Okay. Let's take it slow. So Alex has led us into an interesting point. So you are saying transaction will be instant, that we do not have to wait for confirmations?
Yes, that already happens in DAS. Instant transactions, how it worked up until now, is that masternodes would validate a transaction instantly in 1.3 seconds on average, but let's say a second. Or 2, whatever you prefer. So they would validate the transaction and create a network object called a lock. That object goes to the mempool, and no one can build a block with a transaction that contradicts a lock. So basically, we separated the validation from the writing of the transaction to the blockchain. So when the merchant received an instant transaction, or any receiver, they could see it was locked in a second. So it was as good as a confirmed transaction, because it's going to be included in the next block, because there's a lock there that prevents any other transaction that contradicts that one to be included in the next block. So we prevent double spend thanks to the masternodes. And right now, but because there were certain limitations with the previous system, you could only spend that transaction that you received instantly after a few confirmations. But right now, combined with chain locks, because there can't be a reorganization below that, then every instant transaction, it's working differently, also thanks to long-living masternode quorums. Before that, we have smaller quorums that were not deterministically selected. So they were a bit less easy to deal with. So before that, you needed to wait to spend that instantly received transactions. But right now, when we finish deployment of 0.14 version, that lock that you get in a second and something means your transaction is completely final. It doesn't matter when the block will come. Your transaction is final, and the receiver of that transaction can spend that money instantly.
And how was it before?
Before that, it was confirmed instantly, but you needed to wait for 6 blocks in order to spend it.
Oh, okay.
You could do a normal transaction.
So 15
normal transactions can be built upon zero confirmation inputs, like in Bitcoin. You can do transactions with zero confirmation inputs, and you could do a normal transaction immediately, but not an instant one. For an instant one, with the inputs you had received instantly, you had to wait for 6 confirmations. Now you can do, in a few days, when deployment finishes, you can do an instant transaction as soon as you get an instant transaction. And it's completely safe. This is huge for merchants. This is huge for exchanges, because suddenly you have instant money, secure. It's a blockchain. The security of cryptocurrencies with the convenience of cash.
Fernando, are there any other coins who've done that? I actually haven't heard of any coin.
I don't think so, because enable to, unless it's a DAS fork, although all these new implementations, no one have been able to copy them yet. It's not that easy to fork a coin and keep up with development. So instant transactions, there were a few forks that had them because they had masternodes. DAS was the first coin that launched the masternode concept.
Of course.
So others have it, and with masternodes you can do instant transactions. But completely instant, like we are doing right now, we're the only ones. We're the only ones who really provide the full instant money functionality that everyone would like to have.
Okay, Alex actually brings up a good question. Do exchanges need to opt in to this process, or is it automatic? And what about the miners? Do they need to look up for the updates? And if not, what will happen?
Miners need to update. Most of them have already done it or are in the process of We've communicated with many of them. We've had meetings to explain the update so they would not freak out when they saw our claims that we are ending with 51% mining attacks, because this update affects miners a lot. We were proactive, reached out to them, had meetings, explained what was coming, so they would be comfortable upgrading when the release was done. And they are doing precisely that. And then exchanges do need to implement instant send. Some of them already have it. The previous version of instant send, the one we have right now, not the one we'll have in a few days.
Okay.
So in some exchanges, you have much faster deposits and withdrawals. Not in everyone, not in every exchange, because also this touches security practices. In the end, exchanges probably will never do completely instant deposits and withdrawals, even if the protocol allows for that, because of security. They need to have cold storage wallets in case they get hacked. So if your funds are not in a hot wallet, you can't withdraw them instantly. So they won't ever allow for everything completely instant. But there are already exchanges that have some implementation of instant send upon deposit or upon withdrawal, and then sometimes you get your funds confirmed in 30 seconds, a minute. Or a few seconds. That's awesome.
Can you name those exchanges?
Kraken has instant send, some implementation of instant send. I believe DG. All have so similar names, DGX or something like this. It's a nation one.
So does it mean that if you want to get your crypto out of the exchange SAIP,
it's going to be faster than with any other
so
coin.
that should be the fastest one in the race?
Yeah, probably it's always going to work better for deposits. For withdrawals, again, exchanges have a lot of security proceedings in place. So they are always going to delay that in order to check all those security boxes. But now that we have 0.14 in the street, our business development team will be doing a new round of contacts with exchanges to get more of them to integrate instant send. Again, each one will implement it in a slightly different way.
But that's huge. That's huge.
But that's great anyway. I mean, compare a 1 minute deposit to a 80-minute deposit.
Exactly.
It has nothing
or 6-hour deposit.
Exactly. And there are hardware wallets that already work with instant send. It's KeepKey already supports instant send. So if you are a trader, you can have your funds in your KeepKey completely secure, and then you see an opportunity somewhere, or one of your market signals tells you to trade. You send it to Kraken. You're going to have it there in a minute. So there is no point in having your money in exchanges when you can move value that fast. And then you end your trade, you send it back to your KeepKey. And then it's Bitpanda that says, hey, I have my signal there. So you move it to Bitpanda and in and out, and you can be doing that much faster than with any other coin. So we'll be working on talking with more exchanges to extend the footprint of instant send support. We'll be showcasing that in different ways. Thing is, obviously, exchanges will do whatever is good for their business. So they will only do the integration effort if their customers ask for that. So I encourage everyone to tell their exchange, hey, why don't you support instant send? They need to be seeing that. I would trade more if you had instant send. And that's what they need to hear, because sometimes we go to them, they say, that's awesome, but hey, that's 50 hours of development. And honestly, if it's not going to change my business, why would I? So we need to be telling them it's better business. People are going to trade more. And if you are a DAS trader, tell that to your exchange. Help us get them to implement instant send, because it drastically improves the trader experience and security.
Absolutely. And if we could return, and thanks, Alex, for the great question. It was really, really good. And the thing about updating the miners, is it a case of going to Bitmain website, downloading the latest software, or
no, you go
T3 miners?
if you are running a standard version of DASD,
Yes.
the DAS daemon, you just need to replace it with a new version. That's all. It's a very easy update. You download it from das.org.
Well, most of the people use miners, aren't miners, like Bitmain aren't miners, D3s, ASICs.
Yeah, but if you use, and then you use a pool.
Of course.
Then the pool is the one that needs to update the software, not you. The pool will update their DASD, and then you'll be good. Because what you are using, you are not mining directly. If you are using a pool, you are not mining directly in the blockchain. You are doing certain tasks for the pool. The pool is the one who is.
What are the biggest pools? What are the largest pools for mining Dash? Antpool, it is owned by Bitmain.
Antpool is there. Genesis is there. Pooling is there.
And have those three huge ones, have they implemented these changes already?
I think they are in the process. I don't know at this moment which ones have and which ones haven't. But I know they are in the process. We've contacted everyone, and everything looks great on that front. Let me pull a graph for a second, and I'll give you. Right now, miners are around 50-60% adoption of 0.14, which was launched last Wednesday. That's super fast.
It means 2/3 of the large mining pools have done it.
And we're in contact with some that have not updated yet, because many of them, they don't run standard version of DASD. They modified certain things because they have different requirements or security or distributed centers, things like that. So they do some modifications. So they need a bit more time to update. But with every pool we've contacted with are happy with the update, are in communication with our team, and will update shortly. And proof is, in less than a week, we are already at 50-60% adoption, which is huge. It's much faster than in any previous update, I believe.
And that is all included into that LLMQ, long living master node quorums. Yes.
Long living master node quorums is included in version 0.14, and then two implementations of long living master node quorum. Two things that are possible are chain locks, which is also in that update. That's how we call the 51% mining attack protection.
So these are chain locks, okay.
Yes. And then the chain instance end thing, the improved instance end, is also included in this update. These are the three things, plus probably a few minor fixes.
Are there any other updates?
No, these are the three big things in version 0.14. That's a lot.
No, that is huge. That is huge.
And we already had another major update, mostly under the hood, everything. But 0.13 was released like 3 months ago. The development team is really getting a very good release rhythm.
Okay. There is actually another question. Yes.
Yes, Alex again asked if there are efforts being made to work with exchanges to implement Instance End. Yes. Our business development team, anytime they talk with exchanges, Instance End is the first thing they try to do. In fact, if they want some help from us for certain things, Instance End is always a condition. And then we are also reaching out to other exchanges that already support us to try to convince them to implement Instance End. We have a great integrations engineer that spends his life doing this kind of stuff, and he's brought in a few already.
That was actually one of my questions as well, as what is Dash Core? How big is it?
Dash Core is just one organization that works for the Dash blockchain. It's currently, not sure if the biggest one, but one of the biggest for certain. We are around 50 people, 40 something, 50.
Okay.
People, around 2/3 to 3/4 of that it's developers and it's development and operations. So engineers, both coding or maintaining some infrastructure or designing infrastructure stuff. And then like 25%, maybe around a quarter, it's business development, marketing, finance, customer support. That those we all consider those functions support ones.
And
The key thing is to develop the software and put it out, because there are some developers in the community also helping, but the bulk of the development happens inside the Core Group.
And where are you guys mostly located at?
We are distributed around the world. There are a few people in Phoenix, because the creator of the coin was there. And then the person who's now the CEO of Core Group, because Core Group is a company owned by the network. That's a different discussion. But
owned by the network.
Yeah, I can go to that later. Yeah, that person was also in Phoenix, so we have a small office over there, and a few people are there. But then we are all around the world. I'd say most of the development team is between Europe, and a few in Asia, a few in the US also. We have people in China, people in South America. It's great in terms of reach and the richness it brings to the team, because you have all kind of views. It's also a nightmare in terms of time zone management.
Actually, there's a question from, I would say, probably the most likable person from Dash. When you see the guy, oh, come on, he is. Joel, isn't he?
Okay, after Chainlocks is active, what is the cost of attacking the Dash network versus attacking Bitcoin? That's a great question, because when we say that this brings a ton of security, we say it seriously. Attacking the Dash network will cost hundreds of millions of dollars, because you need to get 51% of the mining layer, which has a cost, depending on the time and the machines and all that. But in the case of Dash, it's not that huge, because we are much smaller than Bitcoin in terms of mining. But you also need to control 51% of the masternode layer. And there we are talking serious money. Because 51% of the masternode layer means at this point around 2,400 nodes. At 1,000 coins per node, that's 2.8 million coins. At current price, we're talking like 350 million or 300. But
and just wait till somebody wants to buy a few masternodes. That is why I love trading Dash. I love Dash. When somebody wants to buy if you try, price goes.
If you try to buy 3.5 million coins from the market, the price is gonna skyrocket. So instead of 2.8 million coins, instead of costing 300 million, it's gonna cost 2 billion. I mean, there are 8 million Dash in circulation at this time. So you would need like 30% of the coin supply to get 51% of the masternode layer. So that's simply not feasible. Even, I mean, if you had a lot of money, you'd be chasing the market, because you would be increasing the price, and probably you would never be able to get enough coins, unless, I mean, you went into absolutely crazy and critical amounts. But then it defeats the purpose of the attack, because now you control the coin. You have 30 or 40% of the coins. Why would you attack? It doesn't make sense.
Absolutely, yes.
So basically, I mean, the price, it's hundreds of millions, but I only say hundreds of millions because I can't have a measurement for the elasticity of the price of Dash with that new demand, because that's an unknown amount. But probably it'd be more than hundreds of millions. In the case of Bitcoin, the price you would need to pay is 51%. The one needed to get 51% of the mining layer.
It was something in USD. It was something around 450,000 for an hour, I think. To rent.
Yeah, but that's assuming you are able to get that capacity in the market. So yes, it's also very difficult. probably you would be able to do it with enough money, but you'd be looking also into hundreds of millions. At any number you make is going to have so many assumptions along the calculation that it can be discussed. I'd say with this, that can't be 51% attacked, and Bitcoin can't be by a third party wanting to get 51% themselves, but could be attacked by miners colluding among themselves. Because to get to 51% attack, 51% of the mining capacity in Bitcoin, you probably, depending on the time, you just need 2 or 3 miners to collude. So that's feasible.
2 mining pools. Pools.
2 or 3 mining pools together, yes. they do 51%. So that's the weak link. Because you trying to attack is impossible, because you are not going to get 51% of the hashing power. But three mining pools together, we've seen that in Bitcoin Cash. That's how they did it. 2 or 3 pools got together and changed a few blocks.
Yes,
because they had 51%. So that's the weak link in Bitcoin. Can we put a price to that? Probably not. But it can happen. The risk is there.
Fernando, for those who are slower, including me, could you explain, out of all this context, what does it mean? What does that word chain lock mean?
Chain locks is the technology that
Thank you.
Protects the Dash blockchain from 51% mining attacks. It does so by having big quorums of masternodes, 400 at this time, to decide on which block has been created first, and signing it. And once a block is signed, anything below that can't be reorganized. So because the 51% attack is based on the dishonest miner mining in secret a longer chain, if you sign the blocks, it doesn't make sense, because their chain is not going to be valid, because all the public blocks are final.
And that means that so after a block is done, it is confirmed and it is locked forever.
Yes.
And then you said that every transaction will be instant. So it takes approximately 1.3 seconds validation.
Yeah, 1-2 seconds.
Transaction gets locked, and then it gets sent to mempool. Could you explain that, please?
Yeah, mempool is a place in the network where the unconfirmed transactions live.
Okay, unconfirmed transaction. Oh, cool. Okay.
That's when the price of Bitcoin transactions increases a lot.
Yes.
Usually the mempool is full of transactions because miners don't include them because their fee is too low. So the mempool grows a lot, because if I only have a space for a certain number of transactions, I'm going to fit in the ones that pay the most, obviously. So the lower fees are stuck in the mempool, sometimes forever. And some transactions will never clear because they don't pay a fee, or the fee is too low.
Okay.
So the mempool is where you have the unconfirmed transactions. What does is that the transactions in the mempool can have a lock, and no other transaction that contradict that transaction can get into a block. So if you try to double spend that transaction that is locked, that second double spend transaction will never get confirmed. So your double spend attack will be unsuccessful.
So basically there are locks, lots of locks that are locked by one bigger one. And where all those unconfirmed transactions are stored?
They are in the memory of the nodes.
Of the nodes, on the servers.
Yeah, in Bitcoin or in that.
In the memory of one server, or
no, every node has their version of the mempool. The transactions they've seen, because they are relayed by the nodes, and miners run nodes, by the way. So every node sees the transactions that get relayed to them by other nodes. When you send a transaction,
yes,
if you're running your own node, you relay it directly to other nodes, the ones you are connected to, and that's how the transaction spreads around the network. If you are not running your own node, you'll relay to the node you are connecting to. If you are using a wallet that is not a full wallet with a full copy of the blockchain, you'll relay to some other node, and that node will relay to other nodes. So that's how transaction is spread. So everyone will see that transaction, and because it's not confirmed yet, because they don't see it in a block, it's in the mempool. They are the transactions waiting to be confirmed eventually.
So you are saying if I took now my Dash wallet, it is empty. Yes. I sent it all to Binance. Yeah.
If you have a Dash Core wallet with your own copy of the blockchain, when you open it, it connects directly to several nodes. So when you send a transaction, it sends it to those nodes it's connected to, and then it spreads faster. If you are not running a full node or full wallet with your copy of the blockchain, let's say you are using Exodus, which is a great wallet that supports Dash.
Yes.
You'll connect to their node. I think Exodus doesn't store your own copy of the blockchain. If not Exodus, Electrum. I think none of them store the blockchain. So you will send it to the server you are connecting to, and then that server will be connected to other nodes. So there will be one more step along the way. And also because you don't have the full copy of the blockchain yourself, the validation of the incoming transactions or everything is done by the node you are connecting to. So you are trusting that node. That's why people say you should run your own node, because that's the way to do yourself the validation. That's where you don't need to trust anyone because you run a full node. To that, by the way, DAS has an improvement coming that will make it possible to have the full value of storing your own copy of the blockchain, but with the convenience of not doing it, because masternodes will do it for you. It's in an upcoming release. It's called DAPI Decentralized API.
Okay.
That means that instead of connecting to just one server, like you do with Light Wallets right now, if you install a DAS Electrum, you are connecting to a server. You tell it which server to connect. So you could be running that server, but usually people don't. If you run Electrum, it's because you don't want to run your own server. So you are connecting to someone else's version of the blockchain. They could be playing with you. If you want total security, you need to run your own version. But when we release Evolution, and one of those parts in Evolution is called DAPI, Decentralized API, you will be able to connect to that API, but instead of connecting to a server, you are connecting to the masternode layer. That means you can trust the information because you are not trusting anyone, you are trusting a layer. And the layer is trustworthy because masternodes are civil attack resistant because masternode owners need to collateralize 1,000 coins in order to stay up. So no one can set up 3,000 masternodes and mess with the network. So because you can trust the masternode layer, that's why we built on top of it. And with these, Light Wallets will be able to access that masternode layer directly through an API, super easy. But instead of connecting to just one server, you are connecting to the class of servers. That's a huge innovation.
You said do not trust anyone, but you've got governing body.
Not exactly. We have a treasury system.
Yes.
10% of the new
Absolutely
coins.
awesome. Yes.
10% of the new coins created are reserved for this treasury system, and then every month they are distributed among proposals that achieve a certain level of approval. But that approval is not centralized. It's completely decentralized. Masternodes vote on the proposals, and the proposals with the most votes, as long as they achieve a certain threshold of approval, they will get the coins. So it's completely decentralized because masternodes are decentralized. We're talking almost 5,000 servers. Obviously, there are people with several masternodes, but not that many.
Do your masternodes vote on implemented changes? on version 0.14, was there a vote, and professional vote, not just yes, I trust you, but was there a professional vote by programmers who say yes, these implementations are good?
No, because the code is open source, so anyone can check. And in reality, masternodes and miners are voting by updating, like in any other project.
Yes.
We put the software out, it's open source, anyone can check it, and then people upgrade if they feel it's safe and they like what it brings. What we do with the proposal system, sometimes we use it as a poll system, and we poll the masternodes and we say, hey, what do you think about this or that?
Okay.
It only allows for yes, no, abstain vote. So it's not that flexible. But sometimes we poll them and say, hey, do you prefer this or that? And we've done that in a few occasions, but it's not optimal. It's basically a fund distribution system. It's a treasury. So what we have is Core Group, the company that develops that software. Every month we do a proposal for our salaries. So we make a proposal to the network and say, hey, we need money to keep working. If they approve, we get paid. If they don't, we won't get paid, so people will quit. So there's a real-time, all-time election going on.
Do you have to do that yourself as well?
We do it as a team. On some occasions, we break it up in functions.
Okay.
But it's not efficient. I mean, you don't want people have to vote on 300 proposals. So usually all Core Group is paid from the same proposal. But in the past, we had a commitment that if any of those proposals, even if passing, had a certain number of no votes, we would split the proposal among functions. So people could vote on the proposal for developers, the proposal for marketing, and the proposal for administration. And we did that last year, by the way, and all them passed. People, I think, just wanted to see the split. So they knew that most of the funds were being used for development and operations and not for the support functions. And when they saw that and they saw that most of the funds were in development, they were okay, and then they vote in the 3 proposals. I think that was it. We don't do individual proposals because you don't want to put out there people's salaries in public. That's private information that if someone wants to disclose, that's great. That's their prerogative. But we don't believe we should be publishing that. And probably it would be illegal in most countries to publish people's salaries. But going back to that, something that was not explained before, when I said Core Group pays these people, and I said Core Group is also owned by the network.
Yes.
So Core Group is a company because it's useful for day-to-day business to be a company.
Where is it registered?
It's registered in the US, so it's an American company. Sometimes you need to sign a contract with someone, and it's very useful to have a company.
And what is the legal status of it?
It's a limited liability corporation, LLC.
LLC, okay.
I think so, yeah. Or a C corporation. Now I have that.
Oh, those are two different, absolutely huge. The difference is so huge, enormous.
Yeah, in any case, it's a private corporation, but the shareholders, and this is where that's why it's irrelevant what type of corporation we're doing, because the shares are owned by a New Zealand trust, which is itself owned by the network.
Whoa. Hold there, please. Let me put it on the paper and just so. There is a Core company.
Yep.
Core.
Group
it is US based. Then it is owned. It is owned by New Zealand.
A New Zealand trust. And the beneficiary of that trust.
Exactly, as trusts are not for profit.
Exactly, and the beneficiary is the Dash network. We did a lot of research to see how we could make some kind of legal structure that would have an anonymous network as the ultimate owner or beneficiary. And we were able to build this. The New Zealand trust law is very good, very clear. It's a very prestigious jurisdiction.
Okay.
So the beneficiaries of that trust is the network. So ultimately,
And there are no other beneficiaries, yes? Just the network itself.
exactly. Yeah, I think there's like a last resort, because you need to have, like, in case this beneficiary disappears, who else is the beneficiary?
Yes,
And then
you need at least 3 trustees or something.
no,
Yes.
those are different figures. The trustee, the
Who are they?
protector, and then the beneficiary. And I think in last resort, if the DAS network disappears, I think the beneficiary is the Red Cross.
Okay, that's cool. And who are the trustees? Because trustees
then,
have got all the power.
The trustee is the one who manages day-to-day operation of the trust, and it's a professional. It's a lawyer based in Switzerland, because in order to get some of the benefits of the trust, we needed the New Zealand trust. It needed to be administered from outside of New Zealand. So it's a professional trustee that works from Geneva.
Mm-hmm.
But then there is another body, which is the protectors of the trust, which sounds like superheroes. And they can fire the trustee, hire a new one, and it's like the board of directors of the trust. And those trustees have been elected by the masternodes. So the masternodes had an election recently. People put up their candidacies, and we had 6 elected protectors that have been appointed protectors of the trust, and they act on behalf of the network. And every year there is a new election, so they overview the the trustee, so he doesn't do anything funky. In any case, the trust only holds the Core Group shares, and then as the owner, they can fire the Core Group board, because they are the owners. That's what the shareholders can do. They can fire the board and take control of the Core Group. That's why the Core Group is absolutely controlled by the network. The network can, through the protectors, fire the board and then make any decision they want with the Core Group.
Okay, and then you said New Zealand Trust belongs to Dash Network.
Yep.
And so beneficiaries would be, and who would be those people in Dash Network? The masternode holders or what?
Yeah, the masternodes are what define the network, but masternodes are not identified, and they are the beneficiary as a class, not a single masternode. You masternode owner can't claim you are the beneficiary. It's the masternode class who are the beneficiary.
Okay, so the whole class. Okay.
So we have the full circle.
It means let us come up with something crazy. Let us say people in Iceland, they say, sod this world, let us take over the Europe, for example. Let us establish a dominion, and they start using Dash or something. No, that's crazy. Anyway, so if somebody wants to legally attack Dash, then the first people to answer would be people who hold masternodes.
Good luck with that. A masternode is just a server on the internet.
Good luck finding them, yes?
Yeah.
For example, Americans are quite famous with blaming some companies or entrepreneurs for damaging the
we have
economical situation, taking all the money and putting it somewhere.
We have legal opinions that are very clear, in the sense that masternodes are completely safe to operate. They are just one cog in the network. They are not money transmitters. DAS is not a security. There is zero risk there. In fact, that's how I got involved in Dash. When I started investing in DAS and reading about it, the lead developer was starting to talk about masternodes and how they would work. So I approached a very well-known legal foundation in the US and asked for their help with the design of the masternode concept, or asked for some inputs, because they had been working a lot with the Tor protocol.
Okay.
And there were some similarities, and we consulted them. They said, as long as this happens and that, you'd be safe. You can't be considered someone who is aiding money laundering or anything. Then we've talked with other lawyers to be sure that that is not a security and that masternodes are not money transmitters. So I don't think anyone would have a reason to attack masternodes. But if they wanted to, we're talking servers that can move around the world. Their IPs are known, but you can switch to a different data center in minutes. So it's not that easy. It's completely decentralized. It's like trying to take down Bitcoin by taking down their nodes.
Well, Bitcoin is different still. It hasn't got a company. It hasn't got a legal entity.
Yeah, but you can kill the company. I mean, you can, if you want, you can kill the company. It's still an open source project. The software is still there.
I was thinking. I remember just last week. I think Americans are trying to, like Europeans, Americans. The governments, they love putting fines on Facebook, on Apple, and they always go like 50 million, 1 billion, something like that. And now Facebook is on the doorsteps of getting the biggest, I think bill of fine for privacy issues for 4 billion or something.
Yeah,
so but Americans or Europeans wanted to fine a Dash Core company with a let's say $1 billion fine. I'm just the people who would answer would be masternode holders.
I get where you are going. No, because if you go after the Core Group and you find the Core Group, you can't go after their shareholders. That's not how it works. If you find Facebook and Facebook can't pay, the company goes bankrupt. But you can't go after the money of their shareholders. In this case, the shareholder is a New Zealand trust. So even if you broke that, usually you can only go after shareholders when they are managing and they've been complicit on certain things. So in law, there's a figure, it's called lifting of the veil, and then you can go after the shareholder. But that's extremely rare. And even if you did that, you take down the trust, because the trust then is liable for the fine. Okay, the trust is broke. You can't go after the beneficiaries, because beneficiaries are something completely different to shareholders. In any case, they have any responsibility. So you would take down the company and you would take down the legal structure, but the software and the network is there. Someone else would create a new company and replicate the structure.
You trust new company or 10 new companies and the same beneficiaries.
The network is decentralized. It's completely robust, like Bitcoin. The Core Group is only a creation to be able to do certain things in an easier way, because the world is not yet decentralized. So people feel more comfortable when you tell them this is a company and we can sign a contract. But it's just a tool. The tool can be discarded. You can get new tools.
Yes, 1 second. Sorry, I'll be back probably. Oh God, no.
I'm not sure if I'm live or not. We've lost Helmut. He told me he was having some trouble with internet connection, but if he went down, he'd be back in 2 or 3 minutes. So hopefully he'll be back shortly. And maybe I will be back shortly because I'm not online. I can't really know. If I'm live and you can make a comment confirming that, maybe I can talk about something else while Helmut comes back, because I think I can see the comments.
My apologies.
Hello, hello.
Oh my God, my apologies. I saw the network was going funny. Sorry, Fernando. I tried to warn you.
Don't worry, it's okay. I'm not sure if I was online while you were out or not.
Yes, it was online. Yes, you can still see 16 people are watching. Yes, my apologies. Yes, when I saw my I was going blurry and everything. I knew. Oh my God, here we go. Great Britain.
I asked them to do a comment in case I could see it, so I could keep talking about
so
something else.
Here is a comment.
Okay. Yeah, it's about what we were talking before about the cost of attacking the DAS network once chain locks is active, which Govinda Arunachala saying the same thing I said before. It's impossible to calculate because it requires acquiring a vast majority of the tokens. Mining power can be evaluated, but the price at which the token owners will sell to someone buying all tokens available on exchanges is unknown until someone tries. Exactly, that's what I was saying, that at current price, maybe it's 350 million or 400, but the elasticity of the price is unknown. So in reality, it will most likely be in the billions.
Can I ask you about the evolution, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is what brings up the thing about the trust and everything. Do we need to trust or not? I've overheard, is that true or not, that there will be some type of censorship possible? There'll be so you'll be able to. So what I heard, that you will have like 3 layers, or have you already got 2 layers?
There's a third layer.
Third layer, yes.
Yeah, evolution is just a code name. Is the name of the next release, and it's so major we've decided to call it 1.0 because we believe the product is mature enough to already say this is 1.0. We believe calling them 0. Whatever at this point, like Bitcoin does and we do, it doesn't make sense. It feels like an experiment, and it's not an experiment anymore. The software is super robust. But anyway, it's called 1.0, and it includes innovations at several layers. One, at the protocol, there are some changes. Most of those changes, or some of those changes, have already been released. Long-living masternode quorums, it's a necessity for evolution. So we've been putting the pieces on so we can launch evolution.
Okay.
Then we also call evolution DAS platform. DAS platform is a set of tools for developers to build applications on top of Dash. And the third leg is DAS Pay, which is a wallet.
So one second, sorry. So the first layer, they are protocols, yes?
Yeah, we're working on 3 fronts, and
yes.
They will all converge on 1.0.
Okay, yes.
Different pieces have already been released. Others will be finally released on 1.0. So we have the work on DAS Core, the protocol software.
DAS Core, yes.
Certain things need to be changed. Many of those things have already been done.
Okay.
Then we have the DAS platform, which is a set of tools for people to build applications on top of the DAS protocol.
Those will be dApps as well, yes? Decentralized, yes, okay.
And then we are also launching one of such applications to showcase the things that you can do. And that application is going to be a wallet. It's called DashPay, and it has several super cool things like usernames. But usernames in a completely decentralized manner, not with a server where you register your username like Twitter does. It's completely decentralized. You register your name in the protocol, and then you can use it in that wallet. And I can send Helmut, if that were your username, funds, and in the background, your wallet, your username and mine would be exchanging keys, and the transactions would be done from one of these long alphanumeric addresses to another one. They would not be reused and all that. But for you and for me, Fernando would be sending to Helmut. You'd be one of my contacts in the wallet. I would select Helmut, send money, I'd send it to you, and you'd receive it. As easy as that.
No
as
zero, no ones, no ABC, nothing, no capital letters, just...
Same thing you do with Venmo or PayPal, but completely decentralized. No central server to attack that. So that's one application we're going to build, that it's also another component. But the big part that is not yet there, although we've already open source some of the repositories and the libraries are there for people to explore, and there's some more explanation in our blog at blog.das.org, is the DAS platform. DAS platform has, as I said, are tools for people to build applications on top of DAS. These tools, the biggest two components are DAPI, which I talked before about. It's this decentralized API that will make interacting with the DAS blockchain super easy. Right now, if you want to build anything or have any kind of service, you need to run your own node. It's complex, it's costly, it's very difficult. With this, you can interact with the network as easy as with any API. You are a web developer, so you know how easy it is to interact with an API. You write a couple lines of code, and you are interacting with that server. But in our case, you'll be interacting with the DAS blockchain. So integrations and building things is super easy. And then the other component is DAS Drive, that will let you store some data in that third layer you were talking about. That layer is stored in the master nodes. When you create your application, you need to define a schema of the data, how the data is going to work, and then your application will validate the data against that schema with the consensus rule of the blockchain, and you'll be able to write that data to the master nodes. In the master nodes is stored using IPFS, so it's like distributed but redundant. So not every masternode has all the data in DAS Drive, but data is not only in one masternode. So it's encrypted, it's super secure, but it's distributed among many masternodes.
Why do you need to go into that route?
Because
this is something what I've loved always about Dash.
Because doing everything in the blockchain is not efficient. You can't. The blockchain is too precious to store too many things in there. It becomes unmanageable. So what some of our developers, the ones that designed this, saw in Ethereum is that for certain things it was not practical, because you need to do everything in the blockchain and it becomes expensive and too big. In this case, the calculations or some of the things that the application does are done locally, but you store the data and the rules in the masternodes in a different layer. So you have the blockchain for the transactions. There's a new type of transaction called state transition transactions, where any change you make to the drive layer needs to go through one of these transactions. So it goes through the consensus rules in the blockchain.
Yes.
But you don't store everything in the blockchain. You do that in the masternode layer, which is more efficient. And then the operations are done at the local level, or developers talk about data contracts instead of smart contracts, because it's not exactly how a smart contract works. In a smart contract, you do everything on the blockchain. So it's more efficient for certain things. That's why they went this route.
Let us say there will be photos on it.
Probably not.
Is that a possibility? Decentralized apps, it means they can do whatever they want to.
It is, but storage will cost something. And
okay.
So, I mean, you could store a photo, but it's going to be much cheaper to do it in Dropbox. You want it decentralized, so be it. But the cost of that is probably going to be not reasonable. It will work better for things that...
Yes, go on, sorry.
things that really need decentralization because you can't trust the other parties or because they are too valuable. If you want to store photos, the price of those state transition transactions are going to be too high for it to make sense. Someone could build that up, but the space in Drive is limited. You can grow it, but obviously if it's distributed among many masternodes and it's integrated with the blockchain, there is much more calculations and energy involved than in any other photo sharing app with simple hosting. So
beautiful.
you can't compete in price with that.
Beautiful.
I can't hear you yet. The image is completely frozen, or it moves very slowly, but I still can hear you. Now I can't, and he's gone. Before he was telling me that last few weeks in the UK have been terrible for internet connections. He was not sure about the reason. Hey, backup plan.
My apologies. My apologies.
Don't worry.
I've connected to mobile network.
And now he's disconnected again.
That's horrible.
I see he's trying because I see his frame coming in and out all the time. Don't worry, mate. I know how frustrating that can be. In any case, my throat could use a break.
My apologies, Fernando.
Hello again.
Hello. My apologies, Fernando.
Don't worry.
Now through mobile data. Yes.
Yeah. So I was saying that it's not the most efficient method to store photos. It can't compete in price with Dropbox or Google Photos or Apple Photos or whatever. So I would not say that's the main application, but it could be an application for medical records, because for those you may need more security and traceability of how they've moved or certain things, and you don't want them centralized. You want maybe providers to be able to access it when you give them access or certain things. So I could see people storing medical records because those are valuable and they are not as frequent. I can't see really someone storing 4,000 photos from their last trip to Hawaii.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, and thank you. And for the end, what would you say why people should use Dash? 3 things.
Reliable, fast, cheap.
Reliable, fast, cheap. And maybe one wish to all the people in crypto space. Just from a human to human.
Yeah, more open-mindedness would be great. This space is full of tribes, and I'm guilty of that also. Sometimes I disregard other projects, sometimes without really putting enough time into studying them.
Yes.
I'd wish that all us were a bit more open-minded, acknowledge that we may be wrong or other people could be doing it better, or there are other ideas that are valid, that we are not at war among each other. We should be able to work among different projects and different communities in a much smoother way than we are right now.
That is so true. Thank you, Fernando.
My pleasure.
And okay,